Right, you've probably recognised the car already. It's the fabulous DeLorean as featured in the film Back to the Future. And with me is Dave Howarth, who's the coordinator for the UK Owners Club. Well, David, how many of these cars are actually still in existence now?
Roughly about 8,000 worldwide.
So obviously there's still quite a few cars going then. So
Yes, out of the 8,500 originally made, there's still not a bad number really, 8,000 left.
And what are they like to actually use on the road? Because obviously they're a bit weird with the up and over gull-wing type doors, and they look as if they might be difficult to get hold of parts, but obviously you're going to tell me different.
Oh well, no, all the parts are available from America, because when the factory closed, Consolidated International bought the full stocks, stored them for 10 years, and now they sell them at astronomical prices. But you've got to go over to America.
So what sort of average price are you looking at then? Say about, if you're trying to buy, if somebody's out there trying to think of buying a DeLorean, what sort of price could they be looking to pay? 10,000 plus, or maybe less than 10?
10,000 will get you a decent one. There is one or two available at the moment, round about the 15,000 mark, which are low mileage and really nice cars. That's for the left-hand version. If you go to the extreme of a right-hand, one of the original 23 made, you can be looking at 20 to 25,000.
So a steering wheel on the right side can cost you an awful lot of money.
Well, when you think about it, £25,000 at today's price and the tip for going up, it's not a bad investment. I mean,
there you go. So if you're looking to buy a good car for an investment, the DeLorean could be the one for you. Right, well, there's one car here that's caught my attention when I walked in, because basically it's a car of my past, and a lot of people will probably have the same feelings. It's a car, it's not the original car my mother used to own, but she did own one similar to this car, and it's a Triumph Herald 1200. And Peter's the guy who owns it now. He's actually got a bit of history behind it. He's actually owned it for 3 years, but the original owner owned it for 34 years. Well, Peter, what sort of condition was it when you bought it?
Well, the paintwork was in the same condition as what you can see now. The car had been looked after all its life. The engine bay needed a bit of work done in it. It was beginning to go rusty around the bulkhead, and I had a choice really to leave the car as original as what it was, and say that it was a totally original car with nothing done at all, or tidy the engine bay up, take everything off and repaint it. And I decided to go for the second option, to preserve the car for another 35 years.
So what about the actual value if somebody's thinking of buying one to restore and build up? What sort of costs can you look forward to spending to get one up to sort of, well, maybe not as good as this particular version, but to somewhere near, rust-free, good runner, that sort of standard?
I think it all depends what you start with in the first place. If you start with something that's quite sound, that needs minor restoration, I suppose you could get it done for about 1,500 quid. If you look at something that's got real major rust problems in the chassis, you're probably looking up to about 3.5 to 4 grand before you even start thinking of painting it. So you're looking at realistic 6 grand to get a rusty one back on the road and restored. And that is not really viable, because the value is never going to be 6 grand, so you'll never get your money back.
You've got a nice car and something people will stop and admire.
You've got a lovely car that somebody would admire, yeah. But there's always a difference between an unrestored one and a restored one. And you just have to have a look and see. You can see by the paintwork, things like that.
Right, well, this is Jeff Butcher, who's the proud owner of this wonderful little Alpine Renault, and it's what actual model is this, Jeff?
This is an A110 dating back to 1971.
And obviously it's a little bit of a strange vehicle. To some people it looks very ugly, but to other people it's just got an attractive line to it. What exactly attracted it to you in the first place?
Well, I've always had a liking for the more peculiar sort of plastic sports cars, and I've always rather fancied an Alpine. And I bought this when I sold one of my Ginettas for more money than it was worth, really, and I thought, shall I put this money in the building society, or is this my chance to go and buy an Alpine? And I think I made the right decision with the Alpine.
So obviously you've had this one for how many years now?
I've had this about 6 years now.
So has it increased in value since you bought it?
Well, prices were quite high in those days. It's probably worth about the same, I would say, now as it was then.
And obviously, do you use it every day as a road car, or do you just use it occasionally?
No, it's mainly a summertime used car. I just run it for about 3,000 miles a year.
And obviously, from a parts point of view and for running its servicing, is it very easy to get hold of parts, or is it difficult?
For such an unusual car, it's surprisingly easy, really. Most of the parts, the Renault parts, are still available, and there are several specialists dotted about the country who can help you with the more difficult items.
And obviously, we can't help but notice the roll cage inside there. Has it got a competition history at all or not?
Not as far as I know, no. It's, that bar was fitted in France, and it had 2 French owners. I've got a lot of the original documentation, and as far as I can see, it was only ever used as a road car.
Because obviously being a glass fibre car, which I think if it did actually, horror of horrors, go end over end, that bar would be quite useful.
I hope it would be, yes, but I'll keep my fingers crossed. I never have to test it.
Right, well, yes, another Renault Alpine, and Tim Jeffrey is the proud owner of this one. Well, Tim, obviously this is a bit of a future classic, really, because it's a fairly recently produced car. What year was this actually produced in?
Well, this was produced in '92, and they stopped making them shortly afterwards.
Yeah, so obviously you're banking on this for in a couple of years' time to turn into a little money earner for you.
If it keeps its value, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Very happy.
What attracted you to the Alpine Renault in the first place? Because I must admit that some of the earlier ones didn't have a very good reliability record, did they?
Well, I'm not so sure about that. I was attracted to the car purely because of the looks. As far as reliability, I believe that they've sorted things out by the time this came out, but personally I've had no problems with it.
And certainly, obviously, as a car, it's certainly unique, isn't it? Because there's not many of them around in the UK. There's certainly a lot in France, but there's not many in the UK.
I understand there's around about 80 in the UK, and obviously I would imagine that that's getting less as more and more cars are exported.
And have you had any problems so far with actually servicing and getting parts for it or not?
No, in actual fact this has got extended warranty and it's still maintained by a Renault dealer. And I'm lucky enough to have the chap that services it is an Alpine fanatic. So, and he's worked on the car since new, so
hopefully if you keep it, it'll be an affordable classic.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the end of the day here at Alexandra Palace. We've actually been round the show most of today. We've tried to bring you as many items of interest to you, including the little models and the other bits and pieces that make up a car show like this. The interesting bits and pieces that people come here to buy, like the little mascots and the little badges that go on the front of the cars that set the period pieces off. And we hope you enjoyed it. And hopefully you'll be watching the show this time next week. So it's Richard Warren at Alexandra Palace in London saying good night.